The sky was gray that morning. Cold wind blew across the muddy field as Maria stepped out of her small farmhouse. She wore old boots, a torn jacket, and her hair tied back with a worn-out scarf. Her hands were rough from work, but her eyes were kind. Beside her walked her son, Ty. He was only 5, holding a small bucket of chicken feed with both hands. He smiled up at his mother, proud to help. Their farm wasn't big, just a few animals, a broken fence, and a small vegetable patch. It had once belonged to Maria's grandfather, a man who taught her to love the land. He had passed away a year ago, leaving the land to Maria. Maria was proud of that land. She worked hard every day to keep it alive. Just as they reached the barn, a loud noise broke the silence. Sirens. Ty flinched. Maria turned toward the road and saw 2 police cars pulling up. Mud splashed as the tires spun in the wet ground. 3 officers stepped out. 2 men and 1 woman. They were laughing. Maria stood straight. She wiped her hands on her jeans and walked forward, Ty close behind her. The tallest officer looked around and smirked. "You know this is private land, right?" he said, resting. His hand on his belt, Maria raised her chin. "Yes, it's mine." One officer chuckled. "That's so. You got papers, farm girl. I inherited it from my grandfather. The deed is inside the house. I can show you." The woman officer looked at the old house and whispered something to the others. They all laughed. Ty held Maria's hand tightly. He didn't understand the words, but he could feel the danger. The second officer walked closer, slow and casual. He stopped in front of Maria and looked her up and down. "Let me guess," he said. "No one else lives here. Just you and the kid?" "Yes," Maria answered, firm but polite. "That's right." "Well," he said, stepping even closer. "That's a problem. See, we got a complaint saying someone was squatting here. Trespassing." Maria's voice shook a little. "That's not true." The officer shrugged. "We don't know that." "Do we?" Ty whispered. "Mom, let's go inside." But the officer suddenly reached out and grabbed Maria's shoulder. Not hard, but enough to show power. Ty screamed, dropping his bucket. "Hey!" Ty shouted, running to his mom. Maria bent down, picked up her son, and held him tight. That was the moment her voice changed. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She whispered, "It's time I make that call." The officers paused. The wind whistled. Through the bare trees, Maria pulled out her phone with one hand, still holding Ty close. Her fingers shook slightly, but her voice was calm. The camera fades out just as she dials a number labeled Marcus, Big Bro, with a small flag emoji beside the name. The screen goes dark. The wind picked up as Maria held her phone tightly, in her hand. Ty clung to her jacket, his small hands gripping her arm. The officers watched her with raised eyebrows. "Who are you calling?" one of them asked with a smirk. "The mayor." "Your lawyer?" Maria didn't respond. She just stared at the screen, waiting for the call to connect. Beep. A deep voice answered, calm but alert. "Maria?" "Marcus, it's happening again," she said softly. "They came, just like before. They're saying I don't belong here." There was a pause. Then Marcus's voice turned sharp. "Stay calm. Don't argue. Let me handle this." The line went dead. Maria slipped the phone into her pocket and looked up. Her body was calm, but her eyes burned. One of the officers laughed. "That your boyfriend?" "No," Maria replied. "That was my brother." The female officer raised an eyebrow. "And what's he gonna do? Ride in on a white horse?" "No," Maria said again, her voice steady. "He's a soldier." Ty looked up at his mom. "Is Uncle Marcus coming?" Maria smiled faintly and nodded. The officers started walking around the yard, poking at her chicken coop and leaning on her fence. One opened the barn door and peeked inside. No license posted. "Here," the tall officer muttered. "That's another problem." Maria's neighbor, Mr. Johnson, was still watching from across the road. He had lived next to the farm for 20 years, but now he only watched from behind his screen door, saying nothing. Maria stood firm on her porch. Ty sat on the top step beside her, hugging his knees. Time passed slowly. The officers kept circling, the property like wolves waiting to pounce. Then almost an hour later, A low rumble echoed from the road. A black SUV pulled up quietly. No flashing lights, no noise. The officers turned. A man stepped out, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a long coat and dark sunglasses. His boots hit the ground with heavy steps. His face was calm but unreadable. Maria stepped down from the porch. "Marcus," she whispered. "Where are they?" he asked. Maria pointed. The officers turned to face him. "Sir, this is a private matter." Marcus pulled a wallet from his coat. He flipped it open. A badge, shiny, clean, U.S. Special Forces. The officers froze. Marcus stepped closer. "Sergeant Marcus Evans, retired. Maria Evans is my sister. She owns this land legally, and unless you have a federal warrant, you're all trespassing." The officers stepped back without realizing it. The tall one tried to stay confident. "We got a call about trespassing." Marcus didn't blink. "Then maybe you should question the person who made that call, because if you touch her again, I'll make one more call, and you won't like what happens next." Silence. Even the wind had stopped. Maria stood behind her brother. Ty peeked out from her side, his eyes wide. The officers looked at each other. Marcus leaned in. "Now, apologize to my sister." No one moved. Then finally, the female officer lowered her eyes. "Ma'am, sorry for the misunderstanding." The tall officer clenched his jaw, but even he mumbled, "Sorry." Marcus stared until they turned around. The squad cars reversed and drove away, leaving only dust behind them. Maria watched them go. She turned to Marcus. "You really came fast." He smiled slightly. "I was already close. Heard what happened last time. I wasn't going to let it happen again." Maria hugged him tight, her body shaking a little. Ty ran up and wrapped his arms around his uncle's leg. The camera fades out on Marcus's serious face as he looks out over the farm. To be continued. That night, the rain came down harder. Maria sat at the kitchen table, holding a cup of tea that had long gone cold. Ty slept on the couch, curled under a warm blanket. Marcus stood near the window, watching the dark fields outside. "Do you think they'll come back?" Maria asked softly. Marcus didn't answer at first. He scanned the empty road beyond the fence. "They might. Bullies don't like being stopped. They get quiet, then strike again when no one's watching." Maria sighed. "I thought owning this land meant something. I thought I was safe here." Marcus turned around. "You are safe. Now that I'm here, no one touches this land without going through me first." The next morning brought more than just light. A loud knock came at the front door. Maria froze. Marcus moved quickly, opening it fast. It wasn't the police this time. It was a man in a gray suit. He had a clipboard in one hand and a fake smile on his face. "Good morning, Maria Evans?" Maria stepped forward. "Yes. I'm from the County Development Office. We're reviewing property line issues in this area. Might I take a quick look around the land?" Marcus stepped between them. "Who sent you?" The man blinked. "Of the county office, just a standard review." "Show me some ID," Marcus said. The man hesitated. Too long. Marcus gave him a look sharp as steel. The man cleared his throat, closed his clipboard, and said, "I'll come back another time." He walked away fast, nearly tripping over the porch step. Marcus watched him go. "Not from the county," he muttered. "That's a setup." Maria looked confused. "But why would anyone fake a land inspection?" Marcus's eyes darkened. "Because someone doesn't want you here, and they're trying to take this land, one trick at a time." That evening, Ty ran into the house shouting, "Mom, Uncle Marcus, come quick." They rushed outside. Someone had torn down the wooden sign at the edge of the field, the one with Maria's family name carved into it. It was snapped in half and thrown into the mud. Maria knelt by the pieces, tears rising. This was Dad's. Marcus looked around, scanning the tree line. He saw movement, someone running between the trees, but too far to catch. "They're trying to scare you," he said. "Make you feel like you don't belong." Maria stood up. Her hands were dirty, but her back was straight. "I've had enough of being quiet." That night, Marcus made phone calls. Not to friends, but to contacts, old ones, people who owed him favors from the military days. People who didn't ask many questions but knew how to find answers. The next morning, Maria was already in the barn feeding animals when Marcus came in holding a printed photo. He placed it on the table. It was grainy but clear enough. The man from yesterday in the suit standing next to one of the cops from the first visit. Maria's mouth dropped open. They're working together? Marcus nodded. Probably trying to pressure you into selling the land. It's more valuable than they let on. Maria sat down, her hands shaking. I don't want to fight. I just want a home for Ty, a safe place. Marcus sat beside her. Then we fight smart, not with fists, with truth, with proof, and if needed, with public attention. Maria raised her head. What do you mean? I mean, let's shine light on their darkness. He opened his laptop. Ty peeked in, rubbing his sleepy eyes. What are you doing, Uncle Marcus? Something big, Marcus said with a smile. By that evening, Marcus had created a video. It showed clips from the security camera he'd quietly placed on the barn. Footage of the police pushing Maria, of the fake inspector, of the broken sign. He posted it online with a clear title. Single mother threatened off her own land. Look what they tried to hide. Within hours, the video started gaining views. Maria stared at the screen in shock. People are commenting. Thousands of them. Marcus nodded. People care. They just need to know. That night, Maria slept better. Not because the danger was gone, but because she finally wasn't alone in the fight. Outside, Marcus sat on the porch with a blanket and a flashlight by his side, watching, waiting, because he knew the storm wasn't over yet. The next morning came with sunlight and noise. Maria was making breakfast when she heard tires on gravel. She peeked out the window and gasped. A news van was outside the gate. Marcus stood on the porch already, calm. Arms crossed. A female reporter stepped out of the van with her cameraman. She smiled politely, holding a microphone. Maria Evans, I'm from Channel 5 News. We saw the video your brother posted. We'd like to hear your side of the story. Maria hesitated. She had never been on TV before, never wanted to be. But Marcus touched her shoulder gently. They want the truth, Maria. Don't hide anymore. Ty peeked around the kitchen door. Will they help us, Mom? Maria nodded slowly. Only if I speak up. She stepped out and faced the camera. The reporter asked her about the police, the false charges, the fake land inspector, the broken family sign. Maria answered every question, her voice shaking at first but growing stronger. This is my land. My father left it to me. I've done nothing wrong. I only want to raise my son here in peace. The interview lasted 10 minutes, but within 2 hours, it was everywhere online. Thousands of views, then hundreds of thousands. The town noticed, so did the county office, so did people with power, but not all the attention was good. That night after the sun went down, Marcus heard something, a soft crack, then another. He rushed outside with a flashlight. One of the barn windows was broken, glass on the ground. Chickens scattered and clucking loudly inside. Someone had thrown a rock. He looked around the yard, footprints in the mud, a beer can still rolling. Maria came running with Ty in her arms. What happened? Marcus handed her the can. A message, someone's angry, we talked. Maria's hands trembled. This is getting worse. No, Marcus said. This is them losing control. The next day, a sheriff, not one of the earlier cops, arrived with another officer. He was older, quiet, respectful. He walked up to Marcus with his hat in hand. Sir, ma'am, I saw the report. I want to apologize for what happened. That's not how we do things here. Not anymore. Maria watched him carefully. So what happens now? We're opening an investigation, he said. But I need you both to be careful. Some folks in this county don't like change, don't like being challenged. Marcus gave a slow nod. We're not going anywhere. The sheriff nodded back. Good. Neither are we. Later that afternoon, Maria sat on the porch, holding Ty in her lap. The fields looked calm again, but her heart wasn't. She turned to Marcus. "Do you really think they'll stop?" Marcus didn't answer right away. He was staring down the road. A black SUV was parked just beyond the property line, windows dark, engine idling. Marcus stood up. "Stay inside, Maria." He walked down the path slowly, his boots crunching the gravel. The SUV didn't move. He stopped at the edge of the fence, crossed his arms, and stared. Finally, the window rolled down. A white man in a dark jacket leaned out. He was clean-cut with sharp eyes. "Nice land," the man said coldly. "Shame if someone took it." Marcus didn't blink. "Try." The man smirked. "You're not from here. Don't understand how things work." "I understand military law," Marcus replied. "And I know when someone's bluffing. You can watch this farm all you want. But if you cross that line—" He paused, leaning forward slightly. "You'll regret it." The SUV window rolled back up. The car turned and drove off slowly, tires kicking dust. Marcus returned to the house. Maria was shaking. What did he want? Marcus looked her in the eyes. "To scare us." But it didn't work. That night, Maria called an attorney a friend had recommended. She told them everything. By morning, they had started paperwork to legally challenge every move the police and county had made. Now it wasn't just personal, it was official. Ty walked into the living room, holding his toy truck. "Uncle Marcus?" "Yeah." "Buddy, will the bad people come back?" Marcus crouched beside him and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Maybe," he said, "but this time we're ready, and they're not." Outside, the wind was calm again, but everyone in the house knew something bigger was coming, and when it did, Maria wouldn't be alone. To be continued. The day had come. Maria stood in front of the mirror, brushing her son Ty's hair. He wore a little button-up shirt and jeans. He didn't understand the full weight of the day, but he knew it was important. "Are the bad police going to be there, Mom?" he asked softly. Maria bent down and kissed his forehead. "Some might, but this time we have people who will listen." Downstairs, Marcus waited beside the front door, dressed in a clean shirt and dark jeans. But it was the badge on his chest that stood out, the one from his Special Forces service. He wasn't wearing it for pride, he wore it for protection. As they stepped outside, a surprise was waiting. 3 neighbors stood near the front gate holding small signs. "We stand with Maria. Truth over power." One of them, a quiet man named Mr. Dale, stepped forward. "I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner," he said. "But what they did was wrong, and I'm not scared anymore." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." At the courthouse, reporters waited. So did a lawyer from the county office. And so did the same 2 officers who had pushed her around on her own farm. Maria held Ty's hand tighter. Inside the courtroom, she sat beside her new attorney, Ms. Carter, a strong woman with a calm voice and eyes that noticed everything. Marcus sat behind them, his military badge catching the light. The judge entered. The room quieted. Ms. Carter stood first. "Your Honor, we are here because my client was accused of trespassing on land that legally belongs to her. We have the deed, the will from her late father, and proof of inheritance." The judge looked at the documents, then turned to the county lawyer. The county lawyer cleared his throat. We need more time to verify the deed. There have been questions about its authenticity," Maria gasped. "They're lying." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Do you have any evidence of fraud?" The county lawyer shifted nervously. "Not yet, but—" Ms. Carter stood again. "Your Honor, we also have a file that was sent anonymously to my office. It includes internal emails between the county inspector and the officers involved. Emails discussing plans to intimidate and remove my client from her land, to make way for a proposed development." The courtroom gasped. The judge's face hardened. "Please approach with that file." Marcus leaned forward in his seat, eyes narrowed. This was the moment. The judge took her time reading. The room was silent, thick with tension. Finally, she looked up. "These messages suggest illegal coordination. If confirmed, the charges against Ms. Evans will not only be dropped, but we may have to open a criminal investigation into several county officials." The county lawyer turned pale. One of the officers looked down at his shoes. Maria felt like she could finally breathe, but it wasn't over yet. Outside, as the press circled her with questions, a car pulled up fast in front of the courthouse. Out stepped a tall, clean-cut man in a suit, eyes sharp, movements confident. "Who's that?" Marcus asked. Ms. Carter's expression changed. "That's Greg Ellison. He owns the development company that wants the land." He walked right up to Maria, ignoring the cameras. "You're making a mistake," he said coldly. "We had a deal with the county. That land was meant to be part of our project. You're in the way." Maria didn't answer, but Marcus stepped between them. "You're talking to a mother and a legal landowner. Back off," Ellison smirked. "And who are you?" Marcus slowly pulled his jacket back to reveal the badge. "I'm her brother, former Special Forces, and if you threaten her again, it won't be just legal problems you'll have." Ellison's smirk faded. Reporters captured the whole thing. Within hours, the scene went viral. The internet exploded with support. Stand With Maria began trending, and back in their small town, the people who had once looked away started to look closer. That night, Maria sat on her porch holding Ty. The stars were out. She still didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time she felt like she wasn't alone in the fight. And now, the people who tried to scare her were the ones scared of being exposed. To be continued. By the next morning, the video had reached over 1 million views. News outlets started calling. Reporters wanted interviews. Blogs ran the story with headlines like, "Single Mom Defends Her Farm," "Military Brother Shuts Down Corruption," "Small," "Town Scandal," "Police Power and One Strong Family." Maria didn't know whether to feel relieved or nervous. She had never wanted attention. She only wanted peace. She only wanted her land, her home, and safety for her son. But now, the world was watching. Ty sat beside her on the couch, munching cereal and watching cartoons. He didn't understand why Mommy's face was on the news. Marcus stood in the kitchen, phone to his ear. "No, she's not doing interviews right now," he said. "She's focused on her case. But thank you for the support." He hung up and looked at Maria. "They're not stopping. CNN just asked if they can come film here." Maria sighed. "I didn't ask for any of this." "I know," Marcus said, "but it's a good thing. Now they can't hide what they did." Just then, someone knocked on the door. Marcus opened it carefully. It was Ms. Carter, Maria's lawyer. She looked tired but excited. "You won't believe this," she said. "The county commissioner just sent over a letter. They're officially dropping all charges against you. And they're opening a formal investigation into Officer Landers and Inspector Burke." Maria covered her mouth. "Oh my God." "There's more," Ms. Carter said. "The development company, Ellison's company, they're under review too. Apparently, this isn't the first time they've tried something like this in poor communities." Maria looked at her brother. "They tried to take our land like it was nothing." Marcus nodded. "But you didn't let them." They stepped outside for air. Across the field, Maria saw more people walking toward her gate. It was the same neighbors who had held signs at the courthouse. This time they brought others, more townspeople, some she didn't even know. A man in a flannel shirt stepped forward, holding a folder. "My name's Jim Nolan," he said. "My grandfather worked this land when your father owned it. I've got a copy of old maps and boundary lines from before the development company even moved in. Thought it might help." Maria took the folder with trembling hands. "Why are you helping?" she asked. Jim looked down. "Because I should have helped sooner." Others began nodding. A woman brought baked bread. A teenager offered to help. "Repair the old barn." Maria blinked back tears. "They tried to break you," Marcus whispered, "but they woke everyone up instead." Later that night, as Maria rocked Ty to sleep, her phone buzzed. It was a new email from a woman in another state. Subject, "Thank you for speaking out message. I'm also a black single mom. They tried to take my home last year. I didn't have a brother like yours. But seeing you fight gave me courage. Please keep going." Maria clutched the phone tightly. This wasn't just about land anymore. It was about every mother who'd ever been silenced. Every poor family pushed aside. Every person told they didn't matter. And maybe her fight was only just beginning. Outside, the stars shone bright over the quiet farm. But somewhere, in cold offices and fancy boardrooms, powerful people were feeling the heat. Because a single black mother had stood her ground, and her brother with just one badge, made the whole system shake. To be continued. The sun rose gently over the farmland, touching the tops of the trees and warming the earth below. Maria stepped out onto her porch, barefoot, holding a warm cup of tea. The air was still, quiet, peaceful. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel fear. She didn't look over her shoulder, and when she looked at her land, she didn't feel uncertain. It was hers. Legally, publicly, fully. The county had returned every document. They confirmed her ownership of the land, going back to her father's name. The false charges were cleared. The inspector and Officer Landers were suspended pending further investigation. The development company, under federal review, and all. Across town, things had changed. People waved now. They greeted her with more respect. Some apologized, others simply looked ashamed. Maria didn't need their pity. What she wanted was peace. And maybe a bit of justice. Ty came outside in his pajamas, dragging a stuffed bear and rubbing his eyes. "Mommy, can we go to the barn today?" She smiled. "Of course, baby. The goats miss you." Behind them, Marcus came out of the house, too. His military badge now kept in a little glass case by the front door. He wasn't staying forever. But he had extended his leave, just to be there until Maria fully got back on her feet. He walked over and handed her a folded American flag. "Dad gave this to me when I joined," he said. He said, "You carry this to remember what you're fighting for. I think it belongs here now." Maria's eyes filled with tears. They hung it beside the door, gently, carefully. A silent message to anyone who passed. This land had a story, and it wasn't going anywhere. That afternoon, more neighbors stopped by. Some brought tools, others brought food. A few asked how they could help rebuild the garden shed the officers had broken. Maria didn't expect this. She didn't trust it. All yet, but she accepted their help. Slowly, the land began to breathe again. The media calls faded. The lawyers stopped knocking. But one email stood out. It came from a nonprofit that helped single mothers reclaim land stolen from them. They offered to work with Maria, to tell her story as part of a national movement. At first, she hesitated, but then she remembered the message from that other black mother. "You gave me courage." Maybe, just maybe, she could give that to others too. By evening, Maria and Ty sat on the porch swing. He leaned on her shoulder, a smile on his face. "Are we safe now, Mommy?" She nodded. "Yes, baby, we are." He pointed to the flag. "Uncle said that's a soldier's flag." "That's right," she said. "Does that mean we won?" Maria looked out across the field. The sky turned orange and pink as the sun dipped low. She took a breath and said, "We didn't just win, Ty. We showed them that no matter how quiet we are not weak, and we don't stand alone." Ty looked thoughtful. "I want to be brave too." She kissed the top of his head. "You already are." As the stars began to appear, the quiet hum of crickets returned to the farm. The house glowed gently with lights. No sirens, no threats, no fear. Just a mother, a son, a brother, and a home that stood stronger than ever. Sometimes the world tries to silence the softest voices, but on this land, a single black mom stood tall, and when they tried to tear her down, her brother's badge didn't just protect her, it reminded them all. She was never alone, and her roots were deeper than they ever imagined.